Who Forleys with our media packages. Get the speed you need with MR Systems Wireless. Call them at 935-2100. That's 935-2100 for MR Systems Wireless.
Experience the power of better connection with Connexus Fiber Internet. Connexus delivers ultra-fast, reliable speeds to keep you connected at the speed of life. Whether you're working from home, streaming your favorite shows, or gaming with your friends, Connexus has you covered. Say goodbye to buffering and dropped calls and say hello to fiber fast internet. Ready to upgrade your connection? Sign up today by clicking the Connexus icon at DeWittDailyNews.com. Nothing connects us like Connexus.
Your friend in Central Illinois. WHOW.
Top of the morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. My guest on the Zoom today is Ed Shimon, National Weather Service in Lincoln. Good morning, Ed. How are you, sir?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, Seth.
Thanks for making time for us. I know it's close to a holiday and you're probably busy. I appreciate you making the time, as always, to come on and tell us about this 4th of July holiday weekend forecast, Ed. What are we in store for? You know, I know Monticello, they've got fireworks tonight, probably a lot of places tomorrow, then some even more on Saturday. What are we looking at? How are things shaping up right now?
Well, we're going to be more than likely dry. We're not seeing a lot of potential for any kind of pop-up thunderstorms, which is a typical part of this time of year. So we're going to be lucky, I think, in that way. But unfortunately, the heat's going to be building. It's not going to be an excessive, like an advisory or a heat warning kind of day. But, it's just going to be uncomfortably hot out there during the day if you're outside. It's something you're going to want to plan for in terms of hydration, getting out of the sun periodically. But all in all, really, I mean, it's going to be pretty banner July 4th.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, if you don't have a hot Memorial Day weekend and a hot 4th of July weekend, did you even have a summer? You know what I mean?
Right. Absolutely.
I feel like we got spared Memorial Day weekend. So, we're due for the 4th, right?
Right. Yeah. The Memorial weekend was actually quite cold. A lot of pools couldn't even open on that weekend like they normally do because it was just the highs weren't even in the low 70s. I mean, it was really pretty surprising.
It was an early Memorial Day this year, but no doubt. So and the beauty is, of course, we get the 3-day weekend for the 4th here this year. So let's break down day by day. Ed, give me the rundown. Let's start with just this Thursday and get us through Sunday. What are we looking at here on the daily forecasts?
Sure. Yeah, we'll rise well through the 80s today, around 89 or so for a peak high temperature. The dew points are probably going to be a little uncomfortable. We're in the upper 60s with dew points, and that's enough to cause problems for your body trying to cool itself. But very little wind too. West wind 3 to 6. I mean, I looked at all the wind farms as I drove down from Peoria today, and they're all still not moving. Yep. And that might be the theme for the next couple of days, because we really are not seeing a lot of air mass movement here. It's just going to kind of be slowly simmering, so to speak. So 89 today. Tonight only about 70 for a low, so not a lot of recovery there. But tomorrow, Independence Day, 91. Full sun the whole day, so the heat indices are going to definitely creep up. It looks like we're showing about 95 for a heat index peak with the dew points in the upper 60s still. So, we're not going to reach heat advisory levels of 105 heat index. But if you're in the sun, see, that's one thing about our apparent temperature forecast. It's for shaded areas. So when we say 95 for a heat index, that's shaded. If you're in the sun, you're going to tack on 10 to 15 degree what your body feels like. So always take that into context, because we have to forecast our conditions for the way our temperature sensors are situated and developed. They're situated for the airflow and out of the sun. But if you're in the direct sun, all bets are off. You're really going to be much more impactful conditions there.
Sure. So that's through, what did we get through there, Ed? I apologize.
It's July 4th, the 95 heat indices or so in the afternoon, but light south winds. And then as we head into the weekend, really a kind of a mirror image of Friday. 91 for a high on Saturday, and a little cooler on Sunday as we bring in some storm chances. So those storm chances start to weasel their way in Saturday night into Sunday morning, and then Sunday during the afternoon. Then we're going to see some thunderstorms in the area with some heavy rain potential there. So, if you've got plans, try and get them all done before Sunday afternoon, outdoor wise, and just be aware that Sunday afternoon probably going to be some storms in the area. We only have, I think, about a 40% chance in the forecast or so. So it's not going to be a washout all day. It's just a matter of you look up and a cloud is forming, you're probably going to get a storm in an hour or so.
You said that one time, Ed, and I'll tell you what, that I can't remember what day it was. It was a week or so ago. It was like we had all those pop-up thunderstorms, and like they were those little itty bitty cells, but they were rain. And I remember you saying if you see a cloud in nearby, you're probably going to get some rain. And by God, we got some rain on one of those days over here. And the funny thing was, it rained out here, but my wife was in town, and I said, "Hey, is it raining in town?" She said, "No, it's fine in town." And I was like, "It's raining out here," so it's crazy.
Yeah, it's just that, localized in summertime. It really is. I mean, within a mile, you can have complete downpour and dry. So, it's just the way it goes. And I know some areas got, flash flooding in some of our southeast counties, and, 4 to 5 inches of rain in probably 2 to 3 hours at most. And, we had to issue some flash flood warnings southeast of Effingham.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas other areas like even Peoria, I'm really pretty dry. I haven't gotten any of the rain that's fallen just kind of in pockets around Peoria County. I just have my location at home's been missed, and things are getting a little crispy.
I was going to say, I was looking out in the backyard last night. I'm gonna mow tonight to make the yard look nice for the 4th, but it's been a few weeks. It doesn't really need it that badly, but everybody around me is mowing, so I'm gonna mow. And I was looking down. There's a spot where my dog lays right below our porch, and it's got cracks in the ground. There's cracks in the dirt, so it's getting dry out there.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Yeah, we are seeing, localized areas of some type of early droughts onset here. And, it's hard to capture that. Yeah, I know when we update our maps for the drought, we're looking at, areas that have monitors or, reports of rainfall. But in between those reports of rainfall, there could likely be, periods of areas of drought. So when Dr. Trent Ford, the state climatologist, tries to update that map with collaboration and across the state, some of that stuff might be getting missed unless people report. And that's why we have, like in CocoRa's, the volunteer observing network, you can have a report of soil conditions. And that's huge benefit, because there's some CocoRa's observers in DeWitt County. And even though there may not be, an official airport site in certain areas of the county, those soil conditions can go into the state climatologist's grab bag of tools for, hey, where's drought, where's not drought. And it's valuable for farmers and everybody to get a good snapshot of what things are really happening out there.
Well, and I'll tell you what, one of the other things that probably contributes to this, while farmers kind of out in the fields, their fields are wide open. One thing I noticed is we had a shower roll through the other day, and it was a good downpour for 5 minutes. But the thing is we have so many trees in our yard, like that canopy of trees really kind of, keeps that moisture from fully hitting the ground is what I've noticed. Is that a thing?
Yeah, absolutely. I know. Same thing with my yard. There's a huge maple tree, and the drip line is about where the rain gets, and that's it. And, I know when I was growing up, I learned a little bit about how trees work, and the roots are spread out to right at the edge of the tree drip line, and that's where the leaves are. And those roots just kind of absorb most of their water from the rain that the leaves drop the rain, and they're not ready to absorb as much moisture right near the trunk because they're shrouded from the rain. And my yard reflects that, because the grass underneath that tree is hurting because it just doesn't get fueled with a lot of moisture all the time. So.
Anything new with the drought monitor, Ed? That have they put anything out new since we talked last? I think you and I caught up maybe early last week, the week before. I can't remember now, but anything new on that front?
Yeah, there was a lot of heavy rain on that June 18th, 19th, window there. And then that was really probably the last real heavy, more widespread heavy rains. And there was a massage of some of the areas of abnormally dry, but DeWitt County is still in no impact drought-wise in the monitor. We've got Vermilion and Champaign just to the east, including Piatt County and a little bit of Macon. So they're in the abnormally dry, and then there's no more abnormally dry until you get to Peoria County and start Marshall, Knox, Fulton. So there's like a corridor right through the center, just east of the Illinois River. That's no impacts on the drought. The most impacts right now are far northern Illinois, north of I-80. There we have actually D1, which is moderate drought in place up there. Otherwise, the central Illinois, all in all, when you're looking at the soil moisture, it's doing okay. The 4-inch, 8-inch, and even the 20-inch down in Springfield are all above normal still.
Oh wow, okay.
Which is kind of surprising. If I look over at Champaign real quick, they're below normal there, and that's why they're in the abnormally dry D0, 4 and 8-inch and 20-inch. I think there's something that might be wrong with their 20-inch sensor there at Champaign. It's not showing a traditional track there, but 4 and 8-inch, we're 50 to 80th percentile below normal. So, we're already tipping the balance toward drought conditions in, the east central part of the state. And that could expand if we don't start to see some more beneficial rains here.
Interesting stuff. Ed Shimon, National Weather Service in Lincoln, is our guest here on the phone for this, or on the Zoom rather, for this morning. So back to the original topic at hand, Ed. Sounds like 4th of July weekend shaping up rather nice given the time of the year. So no rain in the forecast and all those sorts of things. Let's dive into, Ed, real quick as we wrap up the first segment here with you. Let's dive into the rest of July. What are the outlooks showing? What's some of the data telling us about the rest of the month of July as we get into the first full week and beyond? How about those things?
Sure. Yeah, the 6 to 10 and 8 to 14 day outlooks actually show just a near normal temperature profile, which is a change. We've been seeing that above normal, but there's like a below normal pocket right across the central and southern plains of temperature, below normal. And we're normally in the mid 80s, so below normal can be, right around 80, but that would be comfortable. I mean, all the way through, let's see, the 8 to 14 day outlook goes all the way till the 16th of the month. So, it's not showing any kind of really deep heat, and all that heat is mainly in the Pacific Northwest and the northern plains. So we probably could have a decently comfortable or, not excessive heat kind of period here in the first 2 weeks of July.
Yeah. What are our normals for this time of the year, and what's comfortable with that said?
Right. Yeah. July is our warmest month. We see 86 for a high for almost the entire month for normal. And then the low is 64 or so for almost the entire month. So, right around there, mid 80s and mid 60s for highs and lows. And, that's not too bad. The dew point is where you get that uncomfortable situation setting up. But one thing about those outlooks, they are saying above normal precipitation potential. So we could have more cloud cover coming in here after this little bit of a break in the early part of the month without much rain. So possibly a few storm systems coming in. When you're below normal temperature outlook, that means you're probably going to have some storm systems keeping the air cooler and, giving you some rain. So hopefully, that'll help some of the drier areas of central Illinois there.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Gotcha. So with that heat out west there, Ed, kind of far out west, really, the northwest, really, is that mean anything for, does that prolong heat, or does that make the summer shorter in terms of the heat outlook, those sorts of things? Like, does that do anything for the long-term outlooks with those like pockets that we're talking about?
Yeah, sometimes if they move around and oscillate across the country back and forth, that's what usually happens. But I'm not seeing that in the outlooks. It's showing the Northwest stays hot and the Northeast stays kind of warm, and then we're in that cold zone in the middle where we're maybe able to have more of a storm track and less intense heat. Probably some severe weather thrown in there though. Whenever you see cooler than normal, and the storm system's coming in. severe weather potential kind of starts to come back into your thought process there.
Sure.
So, but in reality, if we have a cooler than normal first part of July, that'll help us, because the dog days of summer of August probably are going to, start rolling in eventually.
Yeah.
And we're gonna probably see some sweltering heat in the August time frame based on the 3-month outlook showing us above normal for the rest of summer.
Sure.
So.
Yeah. Well, and to that end, what's precipitation like? Like, is July usually our driest month, or how does July shape out precipitation wise?
Yeah, July is our wettest month. We get 5 inches of rain in July. That's the most we get out of any month throughout the year. So, which basically means 0.2 of an inch of rain each day, almost, or almost a 1/4 inch of rain each day on average. So it's a lot, not quite a 1/4 inch, but yeah, 5 inches of rain for the month, is a lot, and that usually falls in short bursts. Summertime rains, they're the big raindrops. The rainfall rates can be 2 to 3 inches an hour for shorter periods of time. And if those do last for a full hour, and you get 3 inches of rain in an hour, you're going to have some flooding. So that's the kind of the way it goes, ebb and flow, haves and have-nots in certain parts of the area in July timeframe.
Yep. Makes sense. Yep. Like localized rain, like we talked about earlier. So makes sense. Very good. Ed, best place for folks to go. We've talked about a lot. We've covered a lot here this morning. Where do folks go for all this?
Yeah, weather.gov/Lincoln.
Ed Shimon, National Weather Service in Lincoln, my guest on the Zoom. More to come with Ed on the morning show.
WHOW.
Let's check the opening numbers now at the Chicago Board of Trade on this Thursday. Jim Taylor, RFD Radio Network. Corn and beans starting the day higher, and wheat slightly lower. July corn opening 433 1/4, up 4. September corn up 3 1/4, 421 1/4. December corn 437 1/2, up 4. July beans 1061 1/2, up 11. August beans up 6 1/4, 1059 3/4. November beans 1053 1/4, up 5 1/4. July wheat, 558, up 2. September wheat down 2 1/4, 561 3/4. December wheat down to 1.5 pennies, 582 1/2. August bean meal, 279.70, up 2.90. August bean oil down 44 cents, 54.55. Opening numbers at the Chicago Board of Trade on this Thursday morning. I'm Jim Taylor, and you're listening to the RFD Radio Network.
Baum Chevrolet Buick offers full transportation options while giving you peace of mind. This is Scott Baum from Baum Chevrolet Buick here in Clinton. This is what we do every day. We listen to you, give you options for routine maintenance, major mechanical problems, or collision repairs with a staff that's knowledgeable to find the best option for you. Baum Chevrolet Buick, your full service dealer. See us at baumchevybuick.com right from the start.
SIU Family Medicine wants the best help for you and your family. Be a champion. Protect your loved ones. The SIU Center for Family Medicine of Lincoln is accepting new patients. Click their icon at DeWittDailyNews.com to schedule your appointment.
Hi, I'm Brett with Central Cremation Center. We're proudly offering pet cremation services to help keep your faithful companion close to you. Learn more about our pet services by clicking our icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
Once again, a good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Ed Shimon, National Weather Service in Lincoln, is my guest on the Zoom today. And Ed, I'll tell you what, I had Reagan Tibbs with the U of I Extension in Logan County in studio with me a while back, and was telling me about some work he's doing in conjunction with the National Weather Service regarding messaging and things of that nature for producers and whatnot. Tell me a little bit about what this looks like from your perspective. What's going on here? Give us kind of, for folks that didn't hear that conversation, what's going on? What did Reagan approach you about?
Sure, yeah, and we reached out to him as well. Due to the dust storm frequency coming up here that's happened in the last several years, we wanted to get an indication of how can we maybe work better with the farming community and get information from what the status of the fields are, because that's our biggest question mark. I mean, we know the winds are going to pick up and that it's been dry, but the status of the fields is the wild card that we don't know when we're trying to issue and get ahead of these dust storms. And Reagan provided us some information about how the fields get into a certain condition that may be conducive for dust storms. And, possibly, it's really difficult to get a scope of what the field's conditions are, but any way we can get that information from the extension, or if he has any kind of avenues to gather that kind of information, he's willing to provide us with it as much as we can when we get dust storm kind of conditions in the April, May, possibly even early June timeframes.
Yeah, sure. So, do you mind speaking to what that work has looked like? Are you making some ends anywhere? How are things going with that?
Right. Yeah. He at least provided us with knowledge on how long these conditions can set up once we observe fields being tilled and prepared for growing season. These soil conditions can be really powdery for a week or 10 days sometimes after farmers have been active in the field preparing their fields. So just knowing that, how much time frame can be included after an event of getting that soil into more of a powdery condition, and so we know we have to be diligent, with any kind of high winds, and that means 30 to 40, generally 40 mile an hour sustained winds. Then we really have to get some dust products out there and be ready for potentially having those visibility restrictions.
Yeah. It feels like just in the last 5 years, dust storms have really exploded in central Illinois. I don't remember this, even in my, young adult life and my teenage, years in high school and stuff. Ed, I don't remember this stuff. What's going on from your perspective? What do you think is at play here?
Sure. Yeah. And Reagan provided us some insights too on the soil types east of the Illinois River and north of I-70. There's just like that triangle that he pointed out of the soil types, and drain tiles are going in that area are very effective. Just the way that soil is set up, drain tiles take that moisture and remove it from flowing and causing channels of problems in the fields. So that makes the soil be able to dry out quicker right at the surface and create additional dry return of those powdery conditions. So it's part of soil type, and also the introduction of much more widespread drain tiling, which means draining the moisture from the soil to the deeper levels where the roots are quickly.
That makes a lot of sense. In fact, interesting stuff. Very good. Anything else on that, Ed, before we move along and wrap up for the day?
Yeah, we're just always open to avenues of how we can work with farmers. I know farmers, don't want to always tell everything they're doing, it's just not in their wheelhouse, and they don't have the time. But any way that, we can get a more fluent flow of information of how those fields are to the Weather Service. I mean, we are an agency for safety, and these conditions, if we know about, the status of the soils as quickly as possible in those May timeframes, then we can, get products out and potentially keep people off the road and save lives.
Very good. Ed, let's wrap up. Lightning safety. I know that was an awareness campaign last week. Give me a minute on lightning and safety around lightning. How about that?
Yeah, it's any thunderstorm can produce lightning out to 10 miles away from the storm. So, I mean, we just had a flurry of people in shallow water. The lightning strikes the water and people got electrocuted. Most of them didn't pass away, but, lightning kills, and you just got to be aware. If you hear thunder, you can get struck by lightning. Take action to get out of the outdoors, be in a building, and picnic shelters are not safe. You've got to be in a building. So just plan for that. Make sure you adhere to the guidance. 30 minutes after the last rumble of thunder, then go back out, because people go out too soon or delay their entry into buildings too late. And that's where we get, injuries and fatalities.
That's why that 30-minute rule is in place for all those high school sporting events. We always wondered that.
Last rumble of thunder, then you count 30 minutes.
Got it. Ed, best place for folks to learn more?
weather.gov/Lincoln.
Ed Shimon, National Weather Service in Lincoln. Ed, happy 4th, man. Appreciate you. Network News on the way.